Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Tuesday, I hope you all are doing well. It is the game review. Fulham 0, Everton 0 at Craven Cottage last Saturday. A game of football that if you were a neutral watching, you probably didn't have any real interest in or didn't find any real entertainment from whatsoever. And maybe if you were an Evertonian watching, you were a little bit disappointed by for many reasons. I have seen a little bit of fallout on social media over the last couple of days or so. Nothing too serious and not a lot of genuine frustration or upset regarding this result and performance. But there have been, certain concerns about the way in which the game panned out, about the way in which Everton performed, and about obviously the result of the game. And I think that comes from, the fact that we were away to a side like Fulham, who of course are newly promoted to the Premier League this season. The last time they were newly promoted and, come up and spent a ridiculous amount of money, they went straight back down, fairly quickly. And I suppose the expectation amongst Evertonians is to go away to a team like Fulham and to be able to beat them and beat them comfortably. And that certainly wasn't the case on Saturday, but that was never ever going to be the case on Saturday. Fulham are a team that are in extremely good form at the moment. They're currently sitting, bear with me 2 seconds, they're currently sitting quite comfortable in the Premier League table this season, sitting in 7th position. Obviously, that was their 4th draw of the season. They've had 5 wins, only 4 defeats as well, which of course is one less than Everton, and they're sitting currently on 19 points above the likes of Brighton, above the likes of Liverpool, who, certainly Brighton have been hailed as having a really good start to the season. So it was never going to be a case of Everton turning up at Craven Cottage and absolutely wiping the floor with Fulham. Now, I understand when people look at the game, the frustration may be held in the fact that they had 24 shots, Everton only managed 9, they had 6 on target, Everton managed 4, but I mean, just looking at Everton stats, 9 shots on goal with 4 on target in a single game. Barring the game against Crystal Palace, we haven't really seen that before, so it wasn't like we were completely out the game and we had, absolutely no attempts on goal. We had opportunities ourselves, but the reality of the situation is, as I said, is that I think we have to look at this performance and we have to look at this result within the context of where we currently are as a football club at the moment and where we've been over the last 12 to 18 months. So, because it is very, very easy to generalise a fixture like this and look at it, whether it be beforehand or after or during the game, and think, what are we doing? We should be absolutely wiping the floor with this Fulham team. They're not very good. They've only just been promoted. We're Everton, etc., etc. Reality is that isn't the case. This Fulham team are in exceptional form. They've had a really good start to the Premier League season. They were a team that not only would most people have had to go down, this season, but most people will have had to go down rock bottom, to be honest. And I'm not saying that won't happen, and obviously we are still extremely early on in the season. We've got a World Cup coming up over the next couple of weeks or so that'll throw, a spanner in the works for various different things. But, it was never a case of Everton turning up and the expectation for me being to wipe the floor with this Fulham team. And my worry going into this one is my worry going into every single Everton game this season, and that is, are we going to have the firepower to be able to convert any opportunities that we are given? Now, we saw against Crystal Palace the week before that there is that potential to have that firepower, and when everybody is playing well, and when, maybe we're at Goodison Park and there's that feel-good factor there, and Dom's on his best form and Anthony Gordon's on his best form, then this Everton team can certainly create chances and score goals and make opportunities. But the big issue with this Everton team going forward and its lack of creativeness, if you like, is for me consistency. Once again, the performance we saw from Dominic Calvert-Lewin on Saturday against Fulham was, not even a percentage of the one that we saw the previous week against Crystal Palace. The performance we saw from Anthony Gordon against Fulham wasn't even a percentage of the one that we saw against Crystal Palace. And when your forward players aren't firing and your forward players aren't bringing that consistency week in, week out, and they're not turning up week in, week out and doing what you expect them to do, it's very, very, very difficult to expect to win games of football. One big positive I would say, and Wunderlust makes an absolutely brilliant comment, and he says, I said back before we got Tarkowski, it won't be no noticeable turning 1 point into 3. We'll need more attacking quality, but it will be noticeable turning 0 points into 1. I've just been thinking before starting the last team, actually, as I was setting up and doing various bits. Can you imagine where Everton would be at this point in the season with the games that we've played so far and the way in which we've performed and the outcome and the way in which these games have played out? Can you imagine where we would be without James Tarkowski and Conor Cody in this starting 11? Because we can all sit here, for all we like and look at the lack of real quality and the lack of real attacking threat that we've got, and we know that that's an issue. We absolutely know that that's an issue. For me, it's the first thing in January. If we can do it in January, I know the January market is a little bit hit and miss, but if we can do it in January, the first thing is an attacking, creative winger who can consistently put in performances, create chances, score goals, and be involved, or an attacking midfielder that can do the same. We need creativity desperately within this team. I understand all of that, and I get all of that. And I get all of the people saying, well, why didn't we go and get that in the summer? We bought McNeil, who maybe isn't up to standard, or we bought Mopé, who maybe isn't up to standard. The reality is had we have not brought in two extremely good, solid, experienced leaders at the back, for me, we would without a doubt have lost this game on Saturday, and I can pretty much guarantee that. I know some people will say we can't say that, Cam, because last season's defence didn't play this game and you wouldn't be able to see how it panned out, etc, etc. Reality of the situation is Yerry Mina is injured and Ben Godfrey is injured, so that would have meant that had we not have had James Tarkowski and Conor Cody, it would have been Michael Keane and Mason Holgate, and Fulham had 24 shots on goal. I'm willing to bet a considerable amount of money, and I don't bet that one of those chances would have gone in had it have been that those two at centre back that I've just mentioned. And that's not me using them to slag them off or to have a go at them or to unnecessarily slander them. That's just a matter of fact. The matter of fact is Everton is so much better defensively now than what we were last season. Even Vitaly Mykolenko, who was absolutely exceptional on Saturday once again. We spoke about him last week and highlighted him specifically last week. There's a fly in my room again. And about his performance against Crystal Palace and how good that was. It was excellent. He again done it on Saturday against Fulham. He was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I thought Seamus done okay. Not great, but I thought Seamus done okay. And then obviously, Nathan Patterson come on and it was great to see him return. So there will be... My point is, if you're thinking, what are you doing, Cam? You're absolutely waffling shite. My point is that there will be games this season where it's a little bit like this. We're away from home. We're against an informed team, a team with a lot of quality, a team that score goals. And Fulham have had games where they've scored 3-4 goals this season, and they've absolutely wiped the floor with teams. There will be games this season when we come up against sides like this, in games like this, where because of our lack of real attacking threat and lack of any real consistency going forward, it then becomes about, right, well, don't lose this game. If Dom's going to be offside at any given chance, and by the way, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's goal that he actually scored on Saturday, the offside goal, I've watched it back again and again and again, and there is absolutely no need for Dominic Calvert-Lewin to be offside. It's shocking for me. It's really, really, but it's not even like he gains an advantage being offside. And by that, what I mean, before you start saying it was definitely offside, Cam, of course it was offside. But what I'm saying is it's not like he gained a massive advantage being offside, and you look at it and you go, oh, well, had he have been onside, he wouldn't have scored. Had he have just held his run, he'd have still had the run on the defender, he'd have still had the pace, he'd have still had the space in front of the defender, and he would have still scored that goal, which makes it even worse that he didn't need to be offside. And had he have been onside, that would have been the difference maker between Everton winning the game and us having a completely different conversation. But the reality is when you're up against these teams that, for me, have their weakness in defence, and Everton couldn't exploit that once again through a lack of consistency and quality going forward. I thought Anthony Gordon was poor the other day. I thought Dominic Calvert-Lewin was really poor. I thought Damari Gray wasn't much better, okay, but one really good ball into the box in the first half, and that's great. But if we're going to sit here and applaud the kid for putting one good cross in 90 minutes of footy, then that's a low expectation for me. But the reality is when games start to pan out like that, and you start to realise that, okay, we're maybe not on our best form going forward, and we're maybe not going to have many chances going forward, it then becomes about, well, don't concede. Don't concede. Come away from this game, away game, against an on-form team who have got good quality going forward, come away with it with at least a point. Don't come away with it with nothing, and that's exactly what we did. And a big part of that is Connor Cody, is James Tarkowski, is Vitaly Mikalenko, as I said, I thought was excellent the other day. Great to see Nathan Patterson coming back. Midfield, I thought, were a little bit quiet. But as I said, we have to take everything in the context of what this season is, and it's very difficult to get carried away as a football. It's very easy to get carried away as a football fan. We all do it. We all sat here last week. I sat here last week after Crystal Palace and said, "Oh my God, look at how amazing that was! If Everton keep playing like that, and we can zone into that quality every week, then we'll battle out. We'll beat loads of teams, etc., etc." The reality is, last week was a really good performance against a good side, but albeit a side that weren't really there to compete. The atmosphere was great. Everybody was up for it. It was lively. Everton were brilliant. And that might be the case on Saturday against Leicester as well, because we're at home, under the lights, Saturday night. Hopefully that's the same thing. Reality is, it was never going to be a case of that's how we will perform week in, week out, because we've seen more of these performances like the one against Fulham, where it's a very, very solid, structured and good defensively, but going forward there's very little. We've seen them on a consistent basis this season. So that is the standard of performance that Everton are putting out at the moment, not the Palace game. The Palace game is what we can achieve, but in order to achieve that on a consistent basis, you need a lot more quality, you need a lot more consistency, you probably need a lot more confidence. And the reality is, every team this season, every team in the Premier League will have a game where they perform exceptionally. Not every team this season will do that every week. The teams that do it every week are your Arsenals, your Manchester Cities, your teams that fight for the title. And that's why they fight for the title, because they can do that every week. The reality is, we knew going into this season that it was going to be extremely difficult. We knew going into this season that we were going to struggle, and that it was always about staying as far away from that sort of relegation zone as we can. And I think, had you've said at the start of the season, Cam, Everton go away to Fulham in a game in where Fulham have 20 odd shots at goal and you come away with a point, I don't think we would have been very disappointed. And the reason I said think about where we'd be without Connor Cody and James Tarkowski is because it's a really, really important point. This Everton team have a criminal lack of quality going forward in it, and some of that is through fault of recruitment, and some of it is through pure bad luck. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is only just returning from injury after being out for the entirety of the season. Only just returning from injury. His first start was against Crystal Palace. Fulham was only his second start of the season. We're in November. We're about to break for the World Cup. We've lost Richarlison. Imagine where we'd be without the ability to get points in games like this through defensive resilience and, structure and leadership and commitment and fight and desire. And it's not pretty. And I understand we all want to see Everton go out and wipe the floor with Fulham and put 5, 6, 7 past them. And had this have been at Goodison against a Fulham team that had lost their last 6 games on the bounce, who were destined to get relegated, then I'd be sitting here and saying the same thing. Reality is, just because it's Fulham and Everton doesn't mean that there's a God-given divine right for us to turn up and absolutely wipe the floor with them. They're a very good side at the moment, in very good form, with players that have got quality in abundance, who are full of confidence, managed by a manager who seems to be working there at the moment, who we know very well. Everton are a team that have still in that sort of frame of doing what we can do to get results. And what we needed to do on Saturday was defend for our lives and ultimately not concede, because we knew that we weren't, it was very unlikely that we were going to score. And we didn't. I thought Jordan Pickford was absolutely phenomenal on Saturday. And again, yes, there's still some people that seem to, run this nonsense argument of that he's not on good form for his club, which is mad, because I can't remember the last time Jordan Pickford had a particularly bad game. As I said, the entire back line were brilliant. The midfield was a little bit quieter, and maybe that is now the difference in Everton winning games and not winning games is how lively our midfield is. I thought Iwobi played well, but I thought Onana and Ghana were a little bit quieter than what they usually are, a little bit less involved than what they typically are. But then again, we're talking again about an away game, completely different atmosphere against a team that hold the ball, keep possession. We all know how Marco Silva plays. 4-3-2-1, he plays attacking football, his teams can't defend. And that is the most frustrating thing for me, is that we didn't target Fulham enough defensively. We didn't threaten Fulham enough defensively because their biggest weakness is their defence, is their ability to keep goals out, is their biggest weakness. And we didn't target that because Dominic Calvert-Lewin, as I said, wasn't particularly great and was constantly offside when he didn't need to be. Damari Gray was inconsistent and Anthony Gordon was toothless. And, you know, even when we brought on Dwight McNeil, didn't really do much. Mowbray didn't really do much. Although James Garner was excellent when he come on, to be fair, but he obviously plays a very different role. So that is my biggest disappointment coming out of this game, is that we didn't particularly target what Fulham's weakness is. But again, you know, my dad always says to me, you know, before every season, if you win all your home games and you draw all your away games, you win the league. Now, obviously, that statement is void with Everton because we're never going to win all of our home games and we're never going to draw all of our away games. But the overall point of that statement means a draw away from home isn't a bad result anywhere. No matter where you are, a draw away from home isn't a bad result. And had we have gotten more draws away from home last season, we wouldn't have been sat here in May on a Thursday night at Goodison Park in the freezing cold, absolutely cacking ourselves at half-time, being 2-0 down, thinking we were going to get relegated. If we'd have had James Sarkowski and Conor Cody in that team, by the time that Crystal Palace game come along in May, we'd have all been sitting here saying, yeah, we're all right, us, because we'd have turned those defeats to draws. The next step is turning those draws to wins, and that's where bringing in quality going forward is important, whether it be another winger, which for me it needs to be, another creative midfielder, maybe another striker, who knows, but definitely another striker, who knows. But the reality is it was always going to be baby steps this season. It was always going to be, let's, crawl before we can walk and then walk before you can run, rather than maybe a bit of, typical football fan of getting carried away of, wanting to get up and do a 100-metre sprint before we've learned how to crawl. And it's progression. It is progression. And some people go, how is it progression, Cam? Because Everton used to go to teams like Fulham and absolutely blather them away from home. We're not talking about the days of David Moyes, or we're not talking about the days of Roberto Martinez when we were excellent. We're not talking about the days of Howard Kendall. We can only refer to what last season was. And are we in a much better position than last season? Are we much more solid? Is there much more of a structure? Have we got more athleticism? Have we got more leadership? Yes. Have we got more quality going forward? No, because we've lost Richarlison and we haven't replaced Richarlison with somebody that is equally as good, if not better than him. So no, we haven't got as much quality going forward as what we had last season. However, there were games last season where, for example, Burnley away, Burnley away was the game where I sat down, done the instant match reaction, and somebody will remember, but I think I sat here and said, we're gone. We're absolutely gone, because I was convinced at that point that Everton were going to get relegated. Now, Everton scored 2 goals in that game. Richarlison scored 2 penalties. So, if you were to say to me now, Cam, this current Everton team goes 2-0 up away to Burnley, Burnley aren't in the league at the moment, do you concede 3? I'd say no. Because this defence is completely revolutionised and it wouldn't concede 3, and it's got a mentality that in those situations wouldn't crumble like the last one did. So it's baby steps, it's improvement, it's frustrating, and it will continue to be frustrating, and there will continue to be games of football where we all sit here and we say, should have done better there, or should have exploited them a little bit more, or should have got at them a little bit more, or should have created more opportunities. And I get all of that. And I understand the look of the stats is what you went away to Fulham and they had 20 odd shots on target or 20 odd shots at goal, and you only managed to get a point. That's not a good resultant performance. Sometimes stats can be very deceiving. I mean, I've just showed you then they had 25 shots, was it? 26 shots on target. Let me get it up. Let me get the stats up again. Not on target, sorry. They had 24 shots in the game to Everton's 9. So you look at that and you go, oh my God. And, you look at the Sky Sports highlights. Jordan Pickford saves the day. They had 24 shots to Everton's 9. Out of Everton's 9, we had 4 on target. That's nearly half of the shots that we had were on target. 43%, 45%, whatever it is. Out of Fulham's 24, they had 6 on target. So a quarter of their shots, sorry, not even a quarter, a fifth of their shots, is that right? 6, 12, 18, no, 20, a quarter of their shots were on target. Everton had nearly 50% of our shots on target. So whilst Fulham had 24 shots, the majority of them, 18 of them, were blasted over the bar, whether it be by Mitrovic or put wide, etc., etc. Now, don't get me wrong, out of the 6 that were on target, Jordan made a couple of absolutely wonderful saves. 2 in the first half, which were phenomenal. One from Willian, which is really good from close distance, from an experienced forward. And another one where he tipped it over the bar from a Mitrovic header, which was, again, another absolutely, I think it was a Mitrovic header. Or it might not be Mitrovic, might be one of the centre-halves, from an absolutely fantastic save. So, yes, Jordan made a couple of worldies, absolutely, but I thought Leno made a couple of good saves. Made one from Demarai Gray from a tight angle, which was a good save. He made one from Connor Cody, which he got down well for. And, ultimately Everton had our chances in the game. I mean, 4 shots on target. Everton had our chances. As I said, Anthony Gordon had one, which he put wide, but again, it was from a good area. Demarai Gray had one, which he hit at the goalkeeper. Again, a decent save. James Tarkowski had a free header. Now, listen, I'll cut him a little bit of slack, because it's an header in the box, and he's a centre-half. I give him that. Had it have been Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the end of that header, we would be sitting here criticising him massively had he have not scored it. I mean, Jacob is a Liverpool fan in the comments who says, imagine drawing to Fulham. Quite funny that, because on the opening day of the season, Liverpool drew to Fulham. So Jacob either hasn't got a fucking clue what he's talking about, or is just trying to wind people up. So what I would suggest to anybody in the comments, just ignore him, because he's getting what you want from him. And if there's any admins in here, just bounce him, please, because I can't be arsed dealing with idiots. But yeah, as I said, James Tarkowski has a free header in the box. So as much as we might look at the Mitrovic chances or Willian's chance or sit in and go, wow, look at Jordan Pickford's heroic save in the day. What if James Tarkowski puts that header anywhere to the left or right of Baird Leno? What if Dominic Calvert-Lewin gets on the end of what was an excellent cross by Demarai Gray, a really good cross by Demarai Gray? What if he gets on the end of it with a good connection, as opposed to it just skimming off of him? It's 1-0. What if Connor Cody, instead of trying to side foot it in, what if he just puts his foot right through it and lashes at it from the corner? It might be 1-0. So I don't think it was as uneven as a game as what some people are saying. I really don't. But I understand that it is frustrating to accept where Everton are at the moment. However, I'm much happier being able to sit here and say we got a point against the on-form Fulham side and defended really well, than from where I was this time last season, where I was talking about Watford coming to Goodison and, a Watford team that were absolutely abysmal, and were, always getting relegated, turning up at Goodison and, wiping the floor with us as if they were prime Barcelona. I'd much rather be sitting here having this conversation than the one that we had this time last season. And the Blues says headers aren't easy, Cam, no matter who it is. I get it. And this is why I'm not sitting here going, it's an absolute sitter, he's missed a sitter. I get it. But what my point is it was a free header within the box. And, okay, it's not easy and I'm not going to sit here and have a go at him. However, at the end of the day, if they're scored, then we're sitting here saying, good header. But, we're not sitting here saying, oh my God, what a worldie of a goal. So my point is it was a chance. It was a chance that on another day could have gone in. I want to talk a little bit more about the game. As I said, the chances that Everton had, because we did have a few. I also want to talk about a massive decision within the game that would have changed the game without a shadow of a doubt, even just for the mere fact that Alexander Mitrovic had 10 shots at goal or something like that. However many shots. I think he had the most shots at goal for a striker in the league this season to have not scored. And that wouldn't have happened had the referee and VAR either have been capable of doing their job or wanted to do their job and didn't want to turn a blind eye at what was quite possibly the most blatant red card challenge I've seen all season. And I won't, listen, I'll go into more detail in a minute because I want to get in the live comments, but I won't bother talking about Dermot Gallagher, who, by the way, is a character. Dermot Gallagher, I refuse to believe that Dermot Gallagher is a real human being who is genuinely talking his mind and what he believes. That fella is a made-up character played by somebody called Dave Smith, who turns up and acts like he is a referee on Sky and pretends to know what he's talking about. There's not a chance a former professional referee can be that fucking idiotic than what he is. I don't care what TalkSport say. I don't care what Alan Smith says on Sky Commentary. If that challenge is put in on, I don't know, Kevin De Bruyne or Raheem Sterling or, Harry Kane or whoever it may be, it's a sending off all day. Louis says I genuinely don't think it was a red. I've watched it back 2 or 3 times. Listen, if the standard now is that's not a red, a stamp above the ankle, if it's that Van Dijk stamp above the ankle isn't a red, if it's that Joe Linton's challenge is the other day aren't red cards, then that's fine. That's fine. Absolutely fine. If you want to play the game like that, then that's fine. Take it back to what it was like in the 80s and the 90s when you could throw challenges in like that. The reality is, we all know full well that in 4 weeks' time, James Tarkowski will put a challenge in where he merely touches the player's toenail, wins the ball, and he will get sent off for it. So it's not a case of, it wasn't a red, this, that, and the other. He stamped down him. It's a red card in any situation. Any situation. And look, whether it's a conspiracy against Everton or whether these people are genuinely just idiots and haven't got a clue how to do their job, I'm beyond the point of caring about the reasoning or the whys and the wherefores. I'm sick of having to sit here every week and talk about an incompetent referee. Simon Hooper was the referee last week, I believe, against Crystal Palace. He was on a disgusting amount of money for how bad he is at his job. Everton have subsequently been fined, along with Crystal Palace, for failing to console their players on that evening. Well, is that not the referee's job? Is the referee's job not to console his players? Another referee, I don't even know who the fella was against Fulham, some idiot I've never heard of. Was it Paulson or I don't know. Whoever it was, again, just allowing red card challenges to play out. And that challenge was half an hour into the game. Had he have been sent off, we could be looking at a completely different game. Anyway, let's get into some of the live comments. If you are watching live and you are enjoying, please hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. That would mean a great deal to me. Hello, how's things, says David. I'm not too bad. How are you? Philip says, all right, Cam, what's happening? Wonderlust says, hello, Cam. Ned says, decent point. Yeah, it was ultimately. Again, I fully understand the sort of expectation of Everton and the expectation of Evertonians being, well, hang on, with Everton, we shouldn't be happy with the points away at Fulham. We should be wanting to go there and wipe the floor with them. We should be wanting to go there and beat them comfortably. I get it. But the reality is we do, unfortunately, have to remember where we were last season, and we do have to, unfortunately, remember how bad things were last season and how bad things could have been had it not have been for certain individual performances or fans basically turning up and changing the mentality around this team. So, a point against an informed Fulham side away from home is a good result for me. All I think after the result like that is we would have lost it last season. It's a decent point away. That's exactly my thought, mate. Hi, Campbell the Toffee, says Jason. Fulham and Norwich would trading places over 7 years. I don't see that happening this season. This 7th now, not bad at all, even if it stops later on. Yeah, look, obviously, it's a long season and we've got a World Cup break and we don't know what's going to happen during that, and with teams dropping off and whatever. I think it would be silly to make any sort of prediction as to who's going to go down or whatever at this point. But I'd be quite confident in saying I think Fulham will stay up now. I think they're playing good enough football. I think they're scoring enough goals, and I think there's teams below them that will struggle to get back into a game if Fulham go 1 or 2-0 up. But, again, their mentality might drop, their confidence might drop, who knows. Chris says, Cam, he's our man. If he can't do it, no one can. Great analysis. Cheers, mate. Super Mitrovic is responsible for 10 of those shots. Scribes, Jordan Pickford, number 1, was alert to every one. Yeah, he's alert to all 6 that were on target. And as I said, 2 or 3 of them on target were ones that you would fully expect. Don't get me wrong, Jordan made 2 or 3 really, really, really good saves, and he did. It would be silly of me to sit here and say otherwise. He did. But 2 or 3 of them were comfortable saves that you would expect him to make. And the other 20-odd, where I think they're still in the fucking air now. I mean, Mitrovic hit one in the second half that I literally think it's just landed outside of my house 25 minutes ago. He blasted it into the air. So, look, having shots at goal is a positive, and Fulham fans won't be complaining about that. And listen, I'd love Everton to have 20 shots on goal, even if most of them ended up in the fucking Greggs on County Road. I don't really care. Reality is anyone can get on a football pitch and volley a ball over the bar, can't they? It's not difficult. Lavin says, I admit I'd rather watch paint dry, but sadly it's a work in progress. I reluctantly accept unbeaten in the last 2, and you look at the overall picture compared to last season. He also says they need to get Cody on loan, so they get Cody permanent ASAP. We have to thank Wolves stupidity this season, says Lewis. And one Lewis says, rare footage of Everton mugging another club off. Yeah, well, look, again, why is the Liverpool fans in here? Like, why is the Liverpool fans? I don't understand. Get a life. The new Call of Duty's out. Go and play that. Go to the gym. Go and have your tea. Do homework. Go and watch the telly. Go and put a series on. I watched Rush Hour the other day. Go and watch Rush Hour or something. Why are you sat? We're not even talking about Liverpool or anything to do with Liverpool. Why are you in here? What's the point? I don't get it. Why are you in here? Subscribe and leave a like, because you may as well. You're in here now. But I don't get it. Anyway, yeah, I think a couple of really, really good points there, to be honest. And one that I think is a big one is, actually the results this season. We are going to delve a little bit deeper into this when the World Cup's on, and we're going to look at the start of the season and how well we've done. And by the way, Joe is the other fella who's just been in here who have just blocked. It's the same person because he's put on the same shit. He's just on a different account. He's effectively a 14-year-old child whose birds just swerved him. So I hope you're all right, Joe. Yeah, as I said, we are going to look a little bit more in-depth into Everton's season so far and the form and the results and stuff when the World Cup's on, so we can sit down and we can have a little bit more of an in-depth look at it, after Leicester and after Bournemouth. But you look at the games this season, we've lost to Man United, Tottenham, Chelsea, Man United, Tottenham, Chelsea, Villa, and Newcastle. Is that it? Have we had five defeats so far this season, or have we had 6 defeats? Am I completely imagining it? I think we've had 5 defeats this season. Yeah. So Man United, Chelsea, Tottenham, Newcastle, and Villa. Out of those defeats, Chelsea was a tight game that I don't think anyone was too disheartened about. We lost it on a penalty. We had no striker. Man United, good side, in form, come to Goodison. We didn't take our chances. They beat us. Not the end of the world. Tottenham, again, at the time, not now, at the time, relatively in form. Again, good side, away from home. We gifted them a couple of chances late on, gifted them a penalty. They won the game. Newcastle, for what I said previously, good side, in form, doing really well at the moment. Again, really frustrating because they sat back for 45 minutes and we should have been able to do more against them. But we all know the biggest weakness in this Everton team is that creativeness and that quality going forward. And Villa. Now, for me, out of those defeats, Villa is the only one that I still to this day am upset about or annoyed about. I'm upset about the Newcastle result because I went all the way up there and we were shite. But again, I appreciate they're in very good form. They're a very good team. They're managed by a very good manager. They're doing well at the moment. The others, I've got no big issue with. Games that, had you have said at the start of the season, do you think Everton would win or lose? Okay, we have a good record against Man United and Chelsea. I get it. But the reality is, quality-wise, on paper, those are teams that, at the moment, as sad as it is, you would expect to beat Everton. Newcastle included in that. That leaves Villa. Now, as I said, Villa, for me, was a shambles. We should have beaten Villa. We definitely shouldn't have lost to them. But that is what it is. So we've lost one game this season that I think we all collectively would say we shouldn't have lost. Other than that, we've beaten Palace, West Ham and Southampton. One of them being an away game, which we very rarely win. Oh, look at that. What a shot that was, by the way. I've just jabbed that fly completely out the air. What a shot that was. Jazza Dickens, if you're watching, I'll come and train with you, lad. I wasn't offering him a scrap there. If anyone thought I was going to offer him a scrap, I was just going to say, look how good my reactions are. I'll come and get on the pads with you. Again, good win away from home against Southampton. Good win against a West Ham team who, aren't doing too good at the moment, but again, are still a good team. And, a good win against Palace. The other games, draws that on another day could have gone one way or the other. We haven't lost any game this season other than one that we all collectively would say that's a disgrace, that we should have been winning that game. That's Villa. That's it. Most of us would sit back and say Newcastle away, given where they are and where we are, yeah, it's one of them. And the other games would sit here and say, yeah, I'm not really surprised. We can be disappointed, we can be upset, we can be a bit frustrated because most of those games we lost because we gifted those teams chances, but not really surprised. So, whilst it's slow and whilst the progress is slow and whilst, it's not an overnight fix, it hasn't been awful. It hasn't been treacherous. It hasn't been losing 5-2 to Watford at home. It hasn't been losing to Norwich away. It hasn't been losing these games that you look at and you think, how have we lost them? How have we even, how is that even possible? It's been games that we, I don't want to say expect to lose because I don't expect Everton to lose any game, but that's because I'm an optimist and I'm an Evertonian and I love this football club more than the other. But games that you're not losing any real sleep over when you lose because they're against teams that at that time you would expect to turn up and beat Everton. So, yeah, as I said, we are going to look a little bit more in depth into it later on in the month when the World Cup comes up and we can have a little break and we can actually sit down and discuss it a bit more in detail. But yeah, for me, I don't think we've had a bad start to the season at all, and this game was formed part of that, if I'm being honest with you. Let's have a little look into the game then in a little bit more detail then, because I don't think we've done that too much this live stream already. I thought Everton started it well. I thought Everton looked like the team on top for the opening 15-20 minutes. We were getting forward. As I said, we had a couple of opportunities. Gordon had one, which I think he flashed just wide. And then Gray had that one where he hit straight at the goalkeeper. Really positive start, getting forward. Seemed to, be taking that confidence from the Crystal Palace performance and the Crystal Palace win straight into this game. And that was a positive to take because, as I said, Fulham's weakness has always been this season their defence and their ability to keep teams out, stop teams from getting at them and creating chances and scoring goals. So when you see Gray having a chance in the opening 10 minutes and Gordon having a chance in the opening 10 minutes and Dom moving about, you take positive from it. There was always going to be a bit of a switch in momentum because of how good Fulham have been going forward this season. And I think that's exactly what we saw after 10 or 15 minutes of Everton being, really positive, getting forward, as I said, putting them under a bit of pressure, creating opportunities. Fulham then went up the other end. The crowd started to liven up a little bit. They had a couple of chances on the counter-attack, which built their confidence a bit. And Jordan Pickford made a couple of really, really good saves. That's where I think Jordan's performance come in to clutch. When we were on top, we had a good 10-15 minutes, but they did us on the counter-attack, and Jordan needed to make two really, really good saves. As I said, the one from Willian is fantastic, and the one from Mitrovic is fantastic as well. And then from that point, I think it become clear to all of us as Evertonians that this was going to be a difficult game in the sense that they are a good team going forward. And I think it became clear to the Fulham fans that, hang on, we can get at these and we can have a go at these. And as good as they are defensively, they will give us chances. It was then very much a game in which Fulham were in control of. I think from that point, I think for the first 10 or 15 minutes, Everton was solid and Everton were in relative control. I think post that, a lot of it was Fulham. Fulham were in control. Fulham were moving the ball. Fulham were passing the ball well. It was difficult for Everton at that point, I think, to get any real foot into the game. I think the midfield, as I said, weren't as involved as always. Iwobi was picking the ball up and was moving it. As I said, we had that chance with Dominic Calvert-Lewin where Demarai Gray plays a wonderful ball in after a good bit of football. Again, a great pass from Iwobi out to Gray. Gray puts the ball in. Dom just can't quite get the connection on it. But it was that chance, and then Fulham would go up the other end, and they'd have a couple, but not really chances that your heart's in your mouth, but just chances that you're looking at thinking, right, these are capable of getting at us here. These are capable of, putting us under pressure and ultimately challenging us. And, as I said, Fulham then started to go into the game a little bit more, started to control the game a little bit more, started to control the outcome of it. Just before half-time, as we mentioned before, Alexander Mitrovic decides to stamp down the ankle of Idrissa Gana Gueye, as Gana Gueye is on the turn. Reality is, for me, in that situation, and I don't care, I'm not Frank Lampard, I'm not going to get fined 30 grand. I'm an Everton fan who does a channel who, luckily enough, is watched and I would like to think liked by a lot of Blues. I don't care. What I say has no effect on what the FA think or do. If Alexander Mitrovic was an Everton player in that situation, he sees red. It's as simple as that. And you can sit here all you like and say, there's no conspiracy about Everton, there's no this, there's no that, there's no the other. If Alexander Mitrovic is in an Everton shirt, the crowd react to that challenge, their players probably crowd the referee, and it's a red card. Simple as that. Now, one thing I was a little bit surprised about, and this isn't by any sense of the imagination me blaming these two players I'm going to mention or trying to have a go at them or saying it was their fault, but I was a little bit surprised to see the lack of sort of, confrontation by certain Everton players, whether it be Tarkowski or Cody or whoever, around the referee at that time. Maybe they just didn't see it. Maybe on another day that they've seen that challenge, and usually the first two to go over are Cody, Tarkowski. They're in the referee's face and they're effectively saying that's a sending off. Simple as that. That's a sending off. And maybe that's the difference between him getting sent off and him not getting sent off, is a couple of Everton players crowding the referee and forcing him to make that difficult decision. When nobody was crowding him and everybody just sort of stood off and allowed Garner to get back up and hobble a little bit, the referees in this league are utter shithouses. Again, I don't care. Nobody's going to tell me off or shout at me for saying it. The referees in this league are utter shithouses. Every single one of them have got absolutely no bottle whatsoever. They're terrified of making tough decisions. They're terrified of making decisions at home grounds unless it's Everton. They are utter shithouses. So he was never going to go to the monitor. He was never going to want to get his decision overturned, because the reality is he thought, I don't really know what happened there, so I'll just pretend that I've seen it and we'll move on with it. Fucking hell. This kid's on about his 15th account here. Jesus Christ, he's got some commitment. Some commitments are coming on an Everton fan channel. Oh, lad. What a sad life, by the way. What a sad life. I get people coming on and doing it once or even twice to have a little go and try and wind people up and this, that and the other, but that's about his 9th account that he's logged into and come on. Do me a favour, on all your accounts, lad, because I know you're still watching, hit that membership button, please. It's £1, and you've got about 16 accounts, so get on the memberships, please, and do us a favour if you're going to come on. Nice one. But yeah, listen, I don't want to sit here and delve into it too much, because I'm sick of having these conversations, to be honest. I'm sick of having these arguments. The reality of the situation is, it's a sending off. It's as clear as day. Alan got sent off for much less against Newcastle last season. Phil Jagielka got sent off for winning the ball against Wolves a couple of years ago. It's a sending off without a shadow of a doubt, and it's a sending off that would have changed the game, because Fulham go down to 10 men, and all of a sudden their target man, their striker, their force up front isn't on the pitch. Very different game, very different tactic. It is what it is. It is what it is. But he didn't get sent off. And as I said, for the rest of the game then, Fulham were very much in control. We go in at half-time, and I remember sitting there at half-time thinking, this game is there for the taking, but we also have to be very careful of the quality Fulham have got going forward. And that was very much what the second half was. They come out, we had a couple of half chances, as I said. We had the one that Dom puts in the back of the net, but he's offside, and he's got absolutely no reason to be offside from, and no need to be offside from. But nevertheless, he is offside. We have another couple where I think Anthony Gordon put one wide. Dwight McNeil had one where he got it caught in between his feet. We were very, very toothless in that second half. I thought Anthony Gordon was really, really poor in that second half. I thought TheMightyBlues was quite absent in that second half as well. Dom, as I said, was really, really poor. But then it become about, as the game went on, and we started to create less, and we started to be less involved in the game going forward, it was about defending. It was about making sure that we didn't lose this game. It was about making sure that defensively we were solid and that we were always going to come away with at least a point. And that's what we did, as I said. Tarkowski was excellent. James Garner come on and made an absolutely wonderful block to deny what would have been an almost certain goal. Connor Cody was fabulous. Mikalenko was great. Nathan Patterson come back, which was great to see, and he put in a really solid performance. And ultimately, Everton come away with a point against an informed team away from home, having very little going forward once again, which one side you look at it and go, well, there's your problem, you've got little going forward and that's not good enough. On the other side you look and go, well, defensively we're so much better now than where we were last season, and we're turning these games that would have been certain defeats last season into draws. And we can't address the issue up front until at least January, when we can bring in some quality in that area. All we can hope is Dom keeps getting fitter, keeps getting better, and we see more of the type of performance like the one against Palace than we do the one on Saturday. But look, it's a point away from home. We take it. We move on. We've got Leicester on Saturday. Bonfire night, 5:30 kick-off, by the way, which is just baffling for Bonfire night. Again, a game Everton should be winning for me. Leicester have had a little bit of an upturn in form recently, to be fair to them. And I've got a little bit more confidence than what they did have a couple of weeks ago. But again, still a game that Everton for me should be winning. If Everton are to draw this one in the same circumstance, then it's a different conversation, because you're at home, you're against a team that aren't in anywhere near as good a form. As I said, it's a much different conversation then. But we'll address that one as and when it happens. But for me, this one, not the end of the world. A decent result. I get the frustration, but for me, we take it. We go with it, and we try and get 6 now out of the next 2 games. But 4, I think, would be acceptable. 6 would be amazing. Any less than 4, I think, would be disappointing for me. But then we go into the World Cup, and then we can really sit down and address it. But still 2 difficult games. No game in the Premier League is easy, so can't write anybody off. Anyway, we are going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. If you watch live, massive thank you to everybody for watching live and getting involved. If you watch as a YouTube video, please do leave your thoughts down below, and we'll get involved with as many of them as we can as well. We'll be back later on in the week with another live stream. We'll be back with another live stream before the preview to Leicester. So don't forget to subscribe, by the way, as well, because the subscribers have been sort of dropping off and stagnating recently, and I get that the content hasn't really been flowing as much, and that's just because there's games constantly. I've got various different things going on in life as well, so I'm trying to get as much done as possible. But there will be a lot more content, certainly when the World Cup's on and we can sit down and we can talk about specific, points without having to look forward to a game. So big thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. Really, really appreciate it, and we'll see you later.